What's going on, guys? Welcome back. So today I wanted to talk about something that happened to me all the time, and I suspect it happens to a lot of you guys, especially if you have health anxiety. You have anxiety or you have health anxiety and you read a story about somebody getting cancer, having heart disease, or dying, right? Happens all the time. Anytime you open up social media or Yahoo or Twitter or whatever, Facebook, Instagram, we hear about somebody dying suddenly. We hear about somebody getting cancer. We hear about celebrities passing away. And it's not just articles. We watch the news. We hear about this, obviously. We watch movies and we see people die, or we see people have heart attacks or catch diseases or cancers, right? And then sometimes we hear stories, and I've been there where I heard a story about somebody having a heart attack and my chest would tighten up. And a lot of this happens because we're already in a negative state of thinking. Likelihood is we've dealt with anxiety for a while. We're used to catastrophizing. We're used to spiraling. We are used to thinking that we are the tiniest statistic, that we are the unluckiest person in the world, and that we can actually almost catch a disease just like that after reading about it. And I want you to think about that, because that's going to be the big piece of advice that I'm pushing in this video. You can't just catch a disease from reading about it, right? But before we move on, if you deal with anxiety, and if you suffer from health anxiety and you're new to this channel, please hit subscribe and be a part of this family. I make videos that a lot of you will be able to relate with. I recovered from health anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, and panic disorder. I had that for 5 long years. It was miserable going through it, but I tried to turn my suffering into something good, and I think I've done a good job on this channel doing that. So if you're new here, be a part of the family. So I'm going to give you some examples of what I'm talking about catching a disease from reading, hearing, or seeing, somebody else going through it. Obviously, searching on the internet, you're going to find something, but even unintentionally, you'll come across articles, right? Either on Yahoo or on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media, even TikTok, you'll see videos about this, and you'll see a famous person die. There were many instances where I was going through my heart anxiety. It seemed like I saw heart attack everywhere, and I think that some of this can be due to the law of attraction, right? And it's not that these people weren't having heart attacks before, or people weren't having heart attacks before. It's just since I feared that disease so much, it's like my eyes only wanted to see, people that were having heart attacks. At this time, I wasn't really afraid of cancer. This was early on in my health anxiety. I was primarily focused on heart anxiety. So if I saw an article about cancer, it's like my mind just kind of skimmed over it. It didn't worry about it. But if I saw like 35-year-old has a heart attack, I'm like, oh my God, they were young. They looked like they were in good shape, and then they suddenly had a heart attack, and it would freak me out. My chest would get tight, my heart rate would go up, I'd feel my blood pressure go up. And this happened so many freaking times when it comes to seeing things like videos or TV shows and stuff. Like, I used to love to watch House and Grey's Anatomy, ER shows and stuff like that, medical shows. And, I would start to watch them or continue to try to watch them whenever I had my health anxiety, and that didn't last very long. I immediately, shut that off because every time I saw somebody having a heart attack, I assumed that I was about to have a heart attack. If I saw somebody dealing with some rare disease or neurological issue or rare form of cancer, I was like, I'm going to get that as well. And again, just like reading the article or hearing about it, I would develop the symptoms that the patient in these shows were having. If it had to do with stomach pain, my stomach would start to hurt. If it had to do with chest pain, my chest would start to hurt. If they were having shortness of breath in the movie or the TV show or the video, I started to have shortness of breath. My brain would mimic the things that I would see. That's how powerful the brain is, right? It was hard for me to wrap my mind around this, though, so I didn't believe that the brain was that powerful. I just was like, oh my God, like I'm having this disease as well. I didn't see it like that, right? And then coming down to hearing stories, even. I remember, and I'll probably make a longer video about this either tomorrow or the next day. Whenever I was a general manager at a sporting goods store called Hibbett Sports, I had an employee that needed some time off because his dad had a heart attack and he was about to have surgery. And I remember being in the back and, first of all, I asked him why he needed time off. He told me the story. He was like, yeah, man, he was in great shape. He played basketball. He was in better shape than me. And then he just fell down with a heart attack. And immediately my chest got tight. Immediately my chest started to hurt. My heart rate skyrocketed and I went into a full-blown panic attack, and I had to hide it from him. So I just kind of walked off. I was like, yeah, you can have those days off. It ended up with me going back onto the floor, basically embarrassing myself and blanking out in front of a customer because I couldn't process anything because I was in a full panic mode. And then I went out to the back, and then eventually I went to the ER, but in the hospital, to get tested for a heart attack and everything. I'll explain that in more in depth in a future video. But these are just some examples, guys. I remember doing a lot of Googling. This is why Googling is damaging. Not only are you learning about the disease that you fear that you have right now that you have no proof of, you're learning about diseases that you are going to assume that you have in the future, because we all know that our symptoms change. So I remember reading articles about MS, and then I would start getting twitching, right? I would get numbness in certain areas midway through the article. And I'm telling you, it didn't matter what form of cancer or, what type of disease, whatever article I read, halfway through the article, I was already starting to pick up on some of those symptoms. So I just want you guys to know that you are not alone. If you're reading things and you start to feel the symptoms and sensations of the things that you're reading about, that goes the same for videos, movies, TV shows. Also, when it comes to stories that you hear from your family, from your friends, it got to a point where I had to run out of the room if I heard somebody, talking about, my family member got cancer, or, my dad had a heart attack, right? Or such and such died. I would bolt out of the room because I knew that I would start to feel the same symptoms or sensations, or feel that I was about to die because I heard that somebody else died. So my biggest piece of advice for you to start telling yourselves today, and I'm going to keep it simple. There's a lot of other things that go into health anxiety recovery, panic disorder recovery, anxiety disorder recovery. A lot of things go into that. But something that you can start telling yourself within a few seconds. Don't wait to do this, because then your symptoms will already be there. They'll be well established, and it'll be an uphill battle. But immediately, when you start to fear that you have a disease or something that you read, saw, or heard, immediately tell yourself, I can't catch a disease by hearing it. I can't catch a disease by seeing somebody else deal with it. I can't catch a disease by reading about it. But if you haven't gotten your initial reassurance from a doctor, dealing with the symptoms that you already have and what you have had, go to a doctor and get checked out so you can at least have that initial reassurance that what you're dealing with is anxiety, right? And then move forward with your acceptance. But if you deal with this problem, you are not alone. If you watched this far, thank you so freaking much for watching this video. I'm gonna have another video come out tomorrow or the next day. And I think I'll talk about that story more in depth, where I heard about one of my employees' dads having a heart attack, and it sent me into full-blown panic. So I'll cover that in the next video. Remember, if you want extra help with your anxiety recovery, whether it be panic disorder, health anxiety, or generalized anxiety disorder, please check out my course, Elite Anxiety Bootcamp. I'm going to put that down below in the description and in the first pinned comment. My one-on-one coaching info is down there. Online therapy is down there if you've never tried therapy. But please like this video if you got some value, if you can relate with it today. Leave me a comment if you've dealt with this type of situation with your anxiety before. If you've read something, heard something, or saw something and assumed that that was going to be you. Again, know that you're not alone. And again, subscribe if you are new here and be a part of the family. But until next time, guys, keep fighting. I love you all.